Now, social grant beneficiaries started queuing for their money yesterday, but there have been reports of major glitches. Some recipients received double payments, some aged or disabled grant recipients received nothing at all, and we saw the queues again today in our earlier report. The elderly and the disabled were allowed to collect their grants days set aside for them to avoid crowds. Other grants will be paid from tomorrow. Well, government announced earlier that it would help relieve the plight of the poor impacted by the lockdown with additional social grants. So let's look at what happened yesterday and today and the overall changes to the system. We're joined by the Minister of Social Development, Lindiwe Zulu. Thank you for being with us, Minister. You were reportedly waiting for a proper report on what happened yesterday. Have you received that yet?
Yes, I can confirm that I did receive a report from the CEO of Sassa. And it is a report that looks into specifically the regions that had the challenge. And in the main, as it was reported, it was the Western Cape as well as KZN. So I am in possession of a full report that breaks it down to exactly where the glitches were, including what you just spoke about, in terms of those that got paid double when they were supposed to be paid only for the month of May.
So, Minister, can you tell us what happened? Because we hear that up to 1 million people could be affected, some with double payments, some with nothing at all, at such a vulnerable time. The system was working. What happened?
Well, I have been explaining that the problem was more of a technical glitch that happened just a day before we started our payments. I can tell you that from a technical point of view, Sassa and all its technical support had thought that everything was all systems go until on the 3rd, in the afternoon of the 3rd, and it was fortunate that at the time when we got the information, I was sitting with the Sassa CEO and the team giving me a briefing of the preparations. And more the preparations was looking at the technical side of things, because from the month of April, in fact, in general, it's been a problem where Sassa recipients, especially those that sometimes go to the post office and others, the number becomes very big, and at the end of the day, the money is finished at the pay points, and we've been having the conversation with the ones who are responsible for the distribution of money, because we're not responsible for that. But when all is said and done, we need to take the responsibility, because that the money got finished at any pay point shouldn't be the issue, when actually money is being paid to those that are supposed to make sure that the money is delivered. Also, you will recall that many of the places which did not have the money were in the main your post office, and we have to continue having the conversation with the post office, which we thought last month we had covered a lot of that to make sure that money is available. Because I should have started by really apologizing, because the whole day I've been doing that, apologizing for the inconvenience that was caused to many of our grant recipients, but also apologizing the fact that now we have to deal with the ones who were paid double. It means now we have to start thinking about how are we going to get that money back. And it's a plea for us to really ask that we have a conversation about how are we going to get that money back, because we do have to have that money back. So we've got to sort of like converse about how are we going to get the money back. I know that it can be easy to say we won't pay them in the next month. You never know what the conditions are going to be of people, so we have to be sensitive to that. But at the same time, I'm happy to say some citizens did realize that they were double paid, and they immediately corrected that. Of course, those are very few, but we do have citizens who realized that they were paid more, and they honestly said, we're not taking more than what we are supposed to get. But those were very few.
So, Minister, you've spoken about the double payments, but isn't it even more important that some, about 435,000 people, we understand, were paid nothing at all? What's happening in that regard?
I just explained to you that there was a technical glitch. There were files that in the system, the technical system. It was not a person who deliberately said, I'm not paying so-and-so. We have a system. Payment of 18 million people is not something like you pay, you give person directly the money. They either have to go to the ATM or they either have to go to the post office, or very few have to get the money cash from those who are in far-flung places where we still have money that is delivered to those people. This was an honestly technical glitch that Sassa could not do anything about it at the point in the afternoon at about 5. On the 3rd, when I was sitting with them in the meeting, when we were informed that there is a technical glitch. They never slept because they had to make sure that by the following day, something has been done. And unfortunately for them, they could not correct for that 400 and something thousand. And that ended up with one file paying double in the Western Cape and one file not paying people in particular in KZN.
But Minister, my question is, has the situation been rectified for those people who didn't get paid?
Rectified. People have been paid. The situation has been, according to the report that I have in front of me, despite the payments related discrepancies noted above, a significant numbers of those that needed to be paid have been paid. But it's also very difficult within a short space of time of trying to correct something, to be very specific. How many of the 400 and something that, not the 400, how many of those had not been paid were paid? I get a report this evening that says a significant number of them have been paid. What I need tomorrow from Sassa is specific numbers.
Yeah. Minister, people are in such a vulnerable position because of COVID-19. That's why additional payments have been allocated. This is the elderly, the disabled. You've spoken about the problem that led to the queues as well, over and above the glitches. But are you angry, Minister, that this happened? Will anyone face the consequences?
Can I please explain? I can't be angry with something that I was told sitting in a meeting has happened. I cannot be angry about it, but I've got to fix it. My anger is not going to help anybody. I am as conscious as anybody about the pain of elderly people that have to go and queue and have to go back. I'm very sensitive to that fact. But honestly speaking, let me say to you, my anger is not going to help the situation. Mine is to rise above all that and make the demand that I need to make from Sassa to say, earlier on, actually, when I made the interviews during the day, I said I expected a report from Sassa by the end of day. I got that report from Sassa that breaks down exactly to me what happened. My task is to say, this is the problem that has happened. How are we going to solve it? And let me also tell you, from where I sit as a Minister of Social Development, I think we need to move beyond people having to go and queue and create those kind of queues, whether there's COVID or not COVID. COVID, of course, creates a much difficult situation because it means we must also ask our own citizens. Because while government is communicating and explaining that there must be a social distance and all, it's almost near impossible to make sure that you are there at all times. Sassa personnel, they stressed out, they were everywhere where they were supposed to be. SAPO personnel, they were everywhere they could be. I've been to some of those places. They were everywhere doing the best that they can. The call that I'm also making is that all of us as citizens, when there is something like this, we need to be able to help each other, because one person who stands and does not say to the next person, you can't come close to me. One person who's not wearing a mask must be able to ask the next one, why are you not wearing a mask? Because when you are standing in the queue, you are giving you have a potential of infecting me. The President has said over and over, we all need to take responsibility, and government obviously has to take the greater responsibility because we have that responsibility of assisting. Yeah. But my call is all of us, all citizens, must help us in taking responsibility and making sure that they abide by the guidelines, they wash their hands, they keep the distance, They don't go out unnecessarily when they need to go out. We are at level 4 of COVID-19.
Minister, I have so many questions about the new grants as well. This has been seen as a lifeline for many affected by what's going on. But one of the interesting ones and thought to be the hardest administratively was the 350 Rand for unemployed. So you have homeless people, maybe people want to access this. Would there be a lot of paperwork? How is it going to actually sign up those beneficiaries?
At the moment, we have agreed on the systems that we need to use, like your WhatsApp, like your all the systems that we can use that can be able to help us. I am not necessarily very happy at the moment because we cannot use only your emails, only your line, which Sassa has already given, your WhatsApp line. We cannot only use that because the bottom line is that many of the people we are talking about, they don't have access to that. So we will come back to make the announcement. What other systems are we going to make in order to make sure that people are able to apply for this grant? This is a mammoth task. And by the way, we have had to do this within the past 10 days to make sure that we find a system that is efficient, a system that is easily accessible. But on top of it all, because we are calculating a period of May to October, it's a period of 6 months. So even the amount of money that you have to use in order to put a system in place, we have to be conscious of that. We can't go for the most expensive system where we are supposed to pay the 350.
All
and
right.
We will come back to announce all the other systems that need to be used and what time frame must people expect a response from Sassa, because Sassa also needs to make sure that it processes those requests that are sent by people. Already the first 90,000 that we had when Sassa was making the test, we found that almost 30% or 40% or so of the people that had applied are already Sassa beneficiaries. We cannot have Sassa beneficiaries or any other beneficiaries of any government grant taking advantage of this 350. It's got to be people that are unemployed, that have got absolutely no means of income from anything else.
Sure, so you're trying to get people outside of the net in. One of the concerns, and I'd love to know your opinion, Minister, from economic watchers when this was all announced, that it's going to be so difficult to give people more money on their social grant or to start with a new grant and then cut it off in 6 months. Are you concerned that is going to be very difficult?
I am concerned. Remember that even from the NGOs and NPOs and civil society, they've made contributions towards a discussion about what else can we do to make sure that what the president talks about ensuring that nobody goes hungry in South Africa, that is a discussion that we need to have. In fact, in my view, even the manner in which we are doing things with regard to Sassa and the social grant payments and all, many a times I personally feel there's no dignity in the manner in which we are doing it. Because why must I be told of a woman who died getting out of the taxi because she was going to go and collect her grant? We need to re-engineer the whole thing so that, one, it gives dignity to people, two, it's easily accessible, three, people can be able to even purchase within the areas where they live. They don't have to be getting into taxis and going to the big malls. We need to be working together with the Department of Small Business Development. We need to be working with other departments to say, can we change what we are doing now? Because really there's no dignity in that. But I must also say, by the way, majority of our social grant recipients, they are already getting their money by just going to the ATM and withdrawing.
All right, we seem to have lost the minister there, but thank you for that explanation and apologizing for the queues that have been seen. That was for the first lot of beneficiaries, the aged and disabled, some not able to access their cash, saying those technical glitches are being rectified. The Minister of Social Development, Lindiwe Zulu.